Hare Krishna. Another day. We're thankful. Another opportunity to awaken love of God. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Another opportunity. Some devotee friends picked some herbs from their garden and gave me a big handful. They told me what they were used for. Herbs have, specific things, how they affect you, And I forgot. So I made some tea this morning. Now I know what they were for. They're stress relieving, sleepy time tea. So I just had a big cup of it, and I'm like, very potent. So this is for nighttime, not daytime, and well, anyway. Read a little Krishna book. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Uttale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachadesa Karine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shiva Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parvajikacharya Asta Saraswati Shishima His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Vanchikalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Om Namaha Krishna Jai Srila Prabhupada. Krishna, summary study of the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, written and presented in such a way that anyone has access to devotional service just by reading this book. Just read that in the beginning of this chapter, chapter 7. Prabhupada explains that this treatise, Krishna book, is meant for that purpose, that everyone try to hear about the pastimes of the Lord, because simply by hearing about the pastimes of the Lord, they can attain, Prabhupada's words, the ultimate goal of life. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's a true representative of Srila Vyasadeva, because that was Vyasadev's that was his desire also. Did the 10th canto. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Alright. Krishna has appeared, and now the demons are starting to try to attack under the auspices of Kamsa, who does not want any kind of awareness of Vishnu or Krishna or God, doesn't want it. He wants to be the controller of everyone and everything, and the enjoyer, controller. And so his associates, these demonic entities, are starting to bother the atmosphere here. There are several forests in Vrindavan. They're in, I forget which forest they're in, but we'll find out later. They're going to have to move from there because of all this. But for now, the second demon has appeared. This was a demon hidden in the cart. We're going to find out how that worked. Mother Yasoda had placed Krishna under a cart. It's kind of interesting, maybe because of the sun, or made like a little shelter over him, a cart. It was filled with cooking utensils. Kind of funny place to put your baby, but Krishna became angry, and because he was crying, he was hungry, he wanted his mother, and she couldn't hear him because it was in the middle of his birthday ceremony. He fell asleep while the Brahmins were reciting mantras. He was sitting in Mother Yasoda's lap, very comfortable and happy, and the Brahmins were reciting mantras, and everyone was listening to the mantra reciting. For the protection of the child, they were glorifying Lord Vishnu, praying for protection, and he fell asleep. He fell asleep. So that's why she put him in like a little bedding arrangement under a cart, made like a little shelter over him. But he woke up and he was hungry, and she couldn't hear him because so many things were going on. And he kicked his feet, baby lying there, he's kicking and thrashing around, and his foot touched the wheel of the cart, and it shattered, and all the pieces went everywhere. Those carts, they usually have pretty big wheels. Everyone was amazed. So, after that happened, the Brahmins thereafter began to offer oblations to the sacrificial fire. With yogurt, butter, kusha grass, and water. They worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the good fortune of the child. The Brahmanas who were present at that time were all qualified because they were not envious, They never indulged in untruthfulness. They were never proud. They were nonviolent. And they never claimed any false prestige. They were all bona fide brahmanas, and there was no reason to think that their blessing would be useless. With firm faith in the qualified brahmanas, Nanda Maharaj took his child on his lap and bathed him with water mixed with various herbs, while the brahmanas chanted hymns from the Rig, Yajur, and Samavedas. It is said that without being a qualified brahmana, one should not read the mantras of the Vedas. Here is the proof that the brahmanas were qualified with all the Brahminical symptoms. Maharaj Nanda also had full faith in them, therefore they were allowed to perform the ritualistic ceremonies by chanting the Vedic mantras. There are many different varieties of sacrifices recommended for different purposes, but the mantras are all to be chanted by qualified brahmanas. And because in this age of Kali such qualified brahmanas are not available, all Vedic ritualistic sacrifices are forbidden. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore recommended only one kind of sacrifice in this age, namely Sankirtan Yagna, or simply chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As the brahmanas chanted the Vedic hymns and performed the ritualistic ceremonies for the second time, Nanda Maharaj again gave huge quantities of grain and many cows to them. All the cows which were given in charity were covered with nice gold embroidered garments, and their horns were bedecked with golden rings. The hooves were covered with silver plate, and they wore garlands of flowers. He gave so many cows just for the welfare of his wonderful child, and the brahmanas in return bestowed their heartfelt blessings. And the blessings offered by the able brahmanas were never to be baffled. One day, shortly after the ceremony, when Mother Yasoda was patting her baby on her lap, the baby felt too heavy, and being unable to carry him, she unwillingly placed him on the ground. After a while, she became engaged in household affairs. At that time, one of the servants of Kamsa, known as Trnavarta, as instructed by Kamsa, appeared there in the shape of a whirlwind. He picked the child up on his shoulders and raised a great dust storm all over Vrindavan. Because of this, everyone's eyes became covered within a few moments, and the whole area of Vrindavan became densely dark, so that no one could see himself or anyone else. During the great catastrophe, Mother Yasoda could not see her baby, who was taken away by the whirlwind, and she began to cry very piteously. She fell down on the ground exactly like a cow who has just lost her calf. When Mother Yasoda was so piteously crying, all the cowherd women immediately came and began to look for the baby, but they were disappointed and could not find him. The Trnavarta demon who took baby Krishna on his shoulder went high in the sky, but the baby assumed such a weight that suddenly he could not go any further, and he had to stop his whirlwind activities. Baby Krishna made himself heavy and began to weigh down the demon. The Lord caught hold of his neck. Trnavarta felt the baby to be as heavy as a big mountain. He tried to get out of his clutches, but he was unable to do so, and his eyes popped out from their sockets. Crying very fiercely, he fell down to the ground of Vrindavan and died. The demon felt exactly like Tripasura, who was pierced by the arrow of Lord Shiva. He hit the stone ground and his limbs were smashed. His body became visible to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Yes, the demons are very good at disguises. We saw that with Putana. She disguised herself as a beautiful woman, and no one stopped her from picking the baby up and trying to poison him and kill him. But she looked like a beautiful woman. But when Krishna did kill her, and her form was revealed, it was a huge demoniac, 12 miles long demon body. And so similarly here, Trnavarta, he managed to appear like a whirlwind, but when he was killed by Krishna, then his body became visible to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So the residents of Vrindavan, they don't recognize these forms so much. Krishna does. The residents, they're not able to recognize these demons when they come in disguise like that. When the gopis saw the demon killed and child Krishna very happily playing on his body, they immediately picked Krishna up with great affection. The cowherd men and women became very happy to get back their beloved child, Krishna. At that time, they began to talk about how wonderful it was that the demon took away the child to devour him, but could not do so. Instead, he fell down dead. Some of them supported the situation, quote, "This is proper because those who are too sinful die from their sinful reactions, and child Krishna is pious. Therefore, he is saved from all kinds of fearful situations. And we too must have performed great sacrifices in our previous lives, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, giving great wealth and charity, and acting philanthropically for the general welfare of men. Because of such pious activities, the child is saved from all danger." End quote. The gopis assembled there spoke among themselves, "What sort of austerities and penances we must have undergone in our previous lives. We must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, offered different kinds of sacrifices, made charities, and performed many welfare activities for the public, such as growing banyan trees and excavating wells. As a result of these pious activities, we have got back our child, even though he was supposed to be dead. Now he has come back to enliven his relatives." End quote. After observing such wonderful happenings, Nanda Maharaj began to think of the words of Vasudeva again and again. Vasudeva had given him a heads up that there's going to be some problems, because Vasudeva knew that Kamsa's campaign, he would be sending these demons. But Nanda was thinking, boy, Vasudeva must be a great sage or saint, that he can predict these things. Krishna. After this incident, when Yasoda once was nursing her child and patting him with great affection, there streamed a profuse supply of milk from her breast. When she opened the mouth of her child with her fingers, she suddenly saw the universal manifestation within his mouth. She saw within the mouth of Krishna the whole sky, including the luminaries, stars in all directions, the sun, the moon, fire, air, seas, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all other movable and immovable entities. Upon seeing this, Mother Yasoda's heart began to throb, and she murmured within herself, "How wonderful this is." She could not express anything, but simply closed her eyes. She was absorbed in wonderful thoughts. Krishna is showing the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even when lying down on the lap of his mother proves that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether he is manifested as a child on the lap of his mother, as a charioteer on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The concoction of the impersonalist that one can become God by meditation or by some artificial material activities is herewith declared false. God is always God, in any condition or status, and the living entities are always parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They can never be equal to the inconceivable, supernatural power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 7th chapter of Krishna, Salvation of Trnavarta. Hare Krishna.